everybody, my name is Zora Kurzol-Fagar and I'm a member of Innovation Value Institute IVI at Maynooth University and also assistant professor in the School of Business in Maynooth University. Today I'm going to talk about the idea used for publishing an article in RTE brainstorm section, and here you might see some details. At the right side, there is an image from the RT web page, and the topic for the article, which is about an application to use to navigate inside the building area. And because of that, we are having the title Building Indoor Map app. And as you could see, we have been looking for collaborators and contributors to help us to work on this app. And now just I'm going to explain about the idea, the main idea for this application. Actually, all of us, we have been using Google Maps for, we are using very often that one. And Google Map is doing something like that it takes us to the front door for any building. And from that point onward, we need to go and find specific rooms in hospitals, organizations, and so on. And now there is a question, how often we have been facing, any of us, we have been facing some difficulties to find a specific room in a large school, hospital, or organization. As I mentioned, the article has been published, and the link for this article is available over here. In case you are interested, I could send it on to you. And the main idea actually for this article, it has been like that. I was sitting in my office and just a student dropping into my office, very worried and saying that there is an emergency, medical emergency actually over there. And just I started to run to the room and see what's happening over there and how could I be of help to them. Thanks God, everything was okay over there. But the fact is that this might cause some issues later, which are very important, which are life-threatening. And also a friend of mine, colleagues of mine, actually, they have been walking through the building, and just we were laughing because they have been saying that they're lost in the building, in a brand new building, and it's a huge building actually. But that was some type of fun. But when it goes to these life-threatening issues and things, the question is that how we could help people to navigate inside the buildings and reach to the specific rooms that they might need to be there. And actually, this article has been based on research that we are doing under the digital construction cluster for about 7 years ago until now. We have had many collaborators from industry, and we are working in this area. But for these articles, we are just trying to translate all research into plain language, and in this way, public could understand why the research that we are doing and conducting is important. With this article, actually, we have received a number of interest. It has been posted on RT, and later we published this article on LinkedIn. And after that, we have been receiving many contacts from industry and even from our university, because there are many apps at the moment, they're working, and they are trying to address the same issue, navigation inside the buildings. Plenty of applications, but the fact is that they have been reaching us because they wanted to know what we are doing, and actually they know that there are some issues over there. What we are working on is on enabling digital building information. and make it available to all different stakeholders. Like all these companies, they would be happy if they could have access to the digital information for buildings. In conversation that we had with one of the companies, it was like that. My question to them, it was that how you are going to create your app, how you're going to connect your app to any specific building. And the answer, it was like that. We are hiring some architectures and they are going to redraw the plan for all the floors and the whole building. But just imagine if we want to do this for hundred thousands of buildings in a city, how this is possible and how we could do so, and who is going to invest that much of money and to enable this connection between information for the building and also the app that they are creating. And actually, this is so far findings and what we learned from conversations that we had with industry. The good thing is that there are many interests around the topic, and we are hopeful that we are going to have some opportunities to work with this company, but from the perspective that we have been considering as a challenge for this area. This is a real challenge in construction industry, and the strength point that we have been emphasizing on it has been that if any company which already has this application, I mean, navigation application for indoor area of the buildings, if they have created such an application, then if they are going to work with us to create this possibility to enable digital information for buildings, then just imagine how huge market any of these companies could have. I mean, the application could be applicable to any building with any type of data available about the spaces for the buildings. That's actually a very short summary of this article, and also very simple explanation of what we are doing in terms of research under the digital construction cluster. And here there are some more details about this cluster in IVI and the contact details. Actually, we are looking for and seeking for collaborators from industry to work with us on this area. And there is a link over there for the digital construction cluster. And also you could be in contact with myself. My name is Zore, and I would be happy to talk to you more about this topic. And here there are more details and about IVI, and you could be in contact with IVI via info@ivi.eie, and also just subscribe to this website and you could be updated about the events, webinars, and workshops that we are working under IVI. That's my presentation, and I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Carol. Carol, to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Zore, very much. That was really interesting. And appreciate you doing today's Coffee and Talk. So we'll open the floor to questions now, folks. I'm sure there are many.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Joe.
Hi.
Yeah.
Sorry, I suppose we've talked about this before, but maybe just to ask again, you know, with beacons, is there a cost prohibition on using beacons inside buildings to act as a way of identifying rooms for someone with a mapping app on a smartphone?
Actually, the idea of using beacons is really great, and we have been talking about that topic as well, and that's the area that we are going to collaborate on, actually. But the fact is that for many of the buildings, for huge buildings, we already have all this digital information for the buildings available. They all have plans, just we need to, but the fact is that for we have different sources of data and information about building spaces. And the research that we are doing, we are trying to bring all different sources of data and information about buildings together in one specific database. And this database is going to be shaped up based on the standards in the construction industry. And with this, we are trying to follow the same rules, standards, and everything in the construction industry. And with that, maybe we don't need to spend and do some investment for installing beacons. We just need to use the digital information.
Yeah. All right. And is there an application that would take that digital information and transfer it into a map? Like, or does someone need to build that application that would maybe extract whatever the building file is, the file describing the building, and then turn that into a navigable map for a user on a smartphone, let's say?
Yeah, actually, there are this type of structured database somehow in the construction industry. And also, for example, there is ISO 19650 in which we have some convention for naming of the files and everything. What we are claiming is that we need to bring them and be able to bring as the input into an interface all this information from different sources. I mean, from different sources, it means that we have images, we have plans, we have Excel files, we have scanned file for some areas. And what we want to do, we want to actually bring all these things into the interface, and then the output of this interface would be something which is going to be put into the structured database based on the standards for construction industry. This is the research, the main research that we are working on at the moment.
Okay, thanks very much, Dore.
No worries. Thanks for your question.
Yeah, so thanks. So maybe I can ask a question. Yeah. So I see, of course, many application opportunities. You mentioned some finding the way in the building. You mentioned the emergency situation. We did some work around like thinking about airports, for example, would be also a really nice way of looking at it. And I understand that basically, so you're mapping the information, like these different information sources, to a standard way of building representation around this. But I'm still kind of a little bit puzzled around why it's so slow that it happens. So basically, to me, it makes perfect sense that there's so many application areas when we have the data, when we have that integrated data about the building. And of course, existing buildings, there's far more to do than new buildings. So mapping existing buildings. So, but from your opinion now, and you're working on this for a couple of years now, why is it so slow, or what needs to change actually to accelerate this? So what would you need actually happening that you can apply the work what you have in that mapping of standards?
Yeah, actually what we want to do is using all the standards in the construction industry. But the fact is that because of expenses that it might bring to different groups of stakeholders in the construction industry, there is no mandate to follow all these standards. And all this causes that none of these companies, they do not like to invest in this area, while at the end it brings a lot to them. And we know, but I believe that this is the result of the workshops that we had with the people from construction domain, from city council, from different area. The first thing is the mandate from the government side is not there already. They are not obligated to use all these, follow all these standards. And also from the other side, is that there is no perspective on the future, and the companies that they are going to develop applications, they are trying to very fast use different methods. For example, some organization, they have good amount of funding. They are going to just use some type of scanners and then spending some time on redrawing and all of these things. But the fact is that there is another easier way. And this is the research that we are working on. And I believe that this is the novelty of our research. And that's the reason that we got a lot of interest from industry when they realized that we are working in this area. And thanks for your question.
Thanks, Zoe.
Yeah, no worries.
And I think, Gabriel, you have a question there. You can go ahead.
Hi, Zora. Thanks for the presentation. It was really good.
Thank you.
Just, just in terms, two things. One is, does it integrate into existing zone alarm systems, or can it integrate there? Because there's certainly a potential for, say, firefighters where a zone alarm goes off, for instance, and they arrive on scene, that they're able to get to exactly where it's going. And the second thing, going back to your point there a second ago about
You're on mute, Gabriel.
sorry, going back to your point on county councils and such, there are fire regulations as well, which are separate, which might give you another avenue of exploring to get existing buildings compliant. Might be interesting. But yeah, linking into the fire side of things is, and being able to show firefighters what way they can access zone alarms in the building.
Thanks, Gabriel, for your question. Based on my experience that I had working in construction industry, I'm quite familiar with all these permissions that needs to be acquired from city councils related to all these consideration for firefighting exits, fire exits, and all of these things. All of these details, they are already available as the plans attached to the other floor plans for the buildings. They are already there. And with those information, it would be quite provide a connection between those information that we already have for the buildings and this application. And that would be actually fantastic, because if the alarm is working in the building, then all the people that they have this app, I mean, for example, the students, they might have this app on their phone and they could hear the alarm, and then after the alarm, they will navigate through the accessible, the closest exit doors and the routes that they need to go to that exit and all of these things. And that would be fantastic. That would be a great idea. They will be integrated, definitely.
Thanks, Zora.
Thanks for your question.
Or I might come in there as well. Thanks for the presentation, Zora. Really interesting. It's great to hear that there's growing interest in this as well, because you can definitely see the benefits of it. Just wondering, I suppose, thinking back to places that I would have worked in large manufacturing sites and pharma and medtech, where I suppose these types of environments that are very, very regulated, you could definitely see the potential for this type of thing. Plus, they're huge, and you could be wandering around from building to building and within buildings and all the rest of it. And again, in those manufacturing sites, there's so many different methodologies, like just in time and all these things that are focused down to the minutes of productivity. Just wondering, do you think that there could be a link, or is that maybe pushing it too far, but to sites that are huge, to actually looking at productivity for people as well, because they're able to get where they maybe need to go to faster, and looking at it from that perspective?
Thanks very much, Dennis, for the interesting question. Actually, part of the conversation with industry, it was somehow close to this topic, and we have been thinking of somehow tracking of the any object in that area, or it could be people, it could be machineries and everything, and then later we could check on that. Performance, it means that if we have defined a specific time to complete a task, it should be done in that timing. And then with that object, when we could track any object inside the building, then we could check on that if that timing has been working or not. And even at least in terms of timing, it's going to be some type of checking on the performance. And that's actually another use of this. If we could navigate inside the building, that would be also somehow tracking of the objects and also tracking of the people, and definitely for the manufacturers would be beneficial.
Okay, thanks, Zora.
No worries, thank you.
I have a question. Thanks,
Of
thanks,
course.
Laura, for the presentation. And actually, because it's interesting, two things also from the previous comments. One, how do you connect the kind of not changing or slowly changing information like the map over the some objects or in the building with more kind of dynamic indicators? I don't know if you are considering to put this together, temperature or other information that could be useful. For example, if you want to make a decision, if you want to move not only because you need to go to a specific room, maybe you want to go to a room that is cooler than another room that just for whatever reason. And so that if you kind of connect more kind of a dynamic information with more static information. And the second question is the privacy. Of course, you say, if I track objects, if I track people, of course, then I could incur in privacy problems. If you have been also thinking about that.
Thanks, Marco, for the question. First, in terms of the dynamic objects in the buildings, I don't think that this is a dynamic object, but in terms of dynamic data, for example, we have been considering IoT devices and sensors, which are quite fast to create new data for us. And as you mentioned, for example, a warmer room in compared to a colder room, something like this information about the spaces. As soon as we have the digital information for the spaces in a building, then we are going to have all these different elements and objects inside the building, and we will be able to collect all those data into the same database. And that's type of this is what we also have been considering, dynamic creation of data, and it's actually live data that we are creating, and we could use them and analyze them, and as it is analyzed currently for many different places. And I'm just hopeful that have been able to somehow answer your question. But in terms of the privacy, data privacy things, this is actually is very important matter, but also maybe in public organization, this could not be unresolvable, because, for example, when we are getting on the bus, it says that there are videos, cameras on board, and they are recording all the coming and going out, everything. It means that in public organization, we might inform the people that they're walking into any building, and they will know that everything is going to be recorded. But also we know that in many different areas, we have cameras on board. For example, in the university, we have in some areas, in some rooms, we have cameras on board. Maybe also we need to consider some privacy settings, and of course we need to consider all of these aspects.
Thanks.
Hope it answered your question, Marco.
Sure.
Actually, I would like to explain that this is an ongoing research, and for this we are seeking for industry partners to work with us, and with that we are going to hire a researcher. Over the last 7 years we have been doing research, and now we are trying to be more deep into specific area. And this is the reason that we are inviting industry partners to join us, and we are hopeful that we could hire some researchers for a duration, a PhD researcher or a postdoc researcher soon, and being more specific about the topic that we are working on.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sori. If there's no other questions, guys, I think we're just near 2 o'clock. Is there any more questions?
No, just more like a comment. So I think this was a really well spent coffee. Kind of, I'm almost finished with my coffee, so that half an hour. I learned a lot about the standards and that integration of different data sets and also even the live data in buildings. So and then basically lots of use cases. And I can just imagine, sorry, kind of the Google Maps or the OpenStreetMap, what we have with even live information on it somewhere. Maybe that could be something for buildings, that we know a lot about the buildings. We know even how it's used. And so I think there are plenty of opportunities and application areas. So yeah, I think the coffee was well spent, that half an hour listening to you. So I thank so much also from my side.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Sore.
Thank you.
So again, thanks to everyone for joining. And anyone that's new participants online, please feel free to get in touch with us here at ivi@info.ie with any questions you may have. And we look forward to our next Coffee Talk next week, Thursday, the 9th of February, where we have Michael Hanley on building bridges to business through IVI Maynooth University micro credentials. So we look forward to that, and hopefully we'll see you all then.